It all started with a simple visit to a house in the country. I should have known something was going to be wrong that day, but in turn, I wasn't thinking straight. Work was stressful. My wife and I hadn't spent much time together lately, and frankly, I wasn't thrilled about going to her mom's house again. "Jack, hurry up," called out Amanda from the kitchen. She was already halfway packed, and I hadn't even finished my coffee yet. Yeah, I'm coming," I mumble, taking another slow sip of coffee, knowing full well why I was stalling. Every time we went to Amanda's mom's house, something always went wrong. Either we'd fight over something trivial, or I'd get stuck fixing something around the house while Amanda and her mom went shopping or chatted for hours in the kitchen. But I couldn't say no. Amanda loved her mom, and while Victoria could be overly pushy, I didn't want to be the guy who refused to visit his relatives. Still, there was something about Victoria that always made me feel uneasy, like I was walking on a knife blade. Maybe it was the way she looked at me sometimes, or the way she talked about Amanda in such a passive-aggressive manner, as if everything her daughter did was wrong. Either way, before I knew it, we were on the road. Amanda was driving, and I was in the passenger seat, watching the fields and trees go by. The sun was shining, and the weather was beautiful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. "You know, Mom was really looking forward to seeing you," Amanda said, breaking the silence. She looked up at me with the smile I loved so much. I couldn't help but feel a little guilty for my earlier mood. Amanda deserved better than my grumbling, especially today. "I know." "I'm glad we're going," I lied, trying to sound more enthusiastic about the trip. An hour and a half later, we pulled up to Victoria's house. It was a charming, rustic place. A small cottage with a front garden and a large backyard. The only problem was that every time we visited, I found myself in the role of handyman. There was always something broken: an old fence, a leaky pipe, a broken step on the porch. And today, I knew with a sinking heart what was in store for me. As soon as we got out of the car, Victoria came out to greet us. She was dressed in her usual casual attire, but there was something about her demeanor that immediately made me wary. Maybe it was the fact that her eyes lingered on me for a second, or maybe it was just my paranoia kicking in. "Hi, Mom!" exclaimed Amanda, walking over and hugging her mother. Victoria smiled and hugged her back, but when she looked at me, her smile changed slightly. "Jack, I have a small favor to ask," she said, wasting no time. Here we go, I thought. "Could you fix the fence in the backyard? It's been falling apart for weeks." "I'd call someone, but I thought since you're here." "Sure," I said, trying to hide my reluctance. "I'll take a look." Amanda smiled gratefully at me, but I could already feel the weight of the day bearing down on me. It was always like this. I was stuck at random jobs, while Amanda and Victoria discussed everything from family gossip to garden plans. Quickly changing into my work clothes, I headed to the backyard with my toolbox. The fence was in worse condition than I expected, and I could tell it would take me a few hours to fix it properly. Great. This was exactly how I wanted to spend my Saturday afternoon. After about an hour of work, I heard the back door creak open and Victoria appeared with a glass of lemonade. "You must be thirsty," she said, holding out the glass to me. "Thanks," I reply, taking a sip. The lemonade was cold and refreshing, and I couldn't help but appreciate the gesture, though I still felt uneasy. Victoria paused for a moment, watching me work, her eyes moving from the fence to me and back again. I could feel the tension, though I wasn't sure if it was real or just in my head. Either way, I decided it was best to focus on the fence and not her. "How's Amanda doing?" asked Victoria suddenly, breaking the silence. "She's fine," I reply, keeping my tone neutral. "Work's been stressful, but we're getting through it." Victoria nodded, but something in her facial expression told me that she wasn't really interested in my answer. She was looking for something else, though I couldn't figure out what. "You know," she said after a pause, "you're a good man, Jack." I don't say that very often. "Amanda's lucky to have you." I didn't know what to say in response. Compliments from Victoria always seemed tacked on, like there was some unspoken subtext I was missing. "Thank you," I mutter, hoping that would be the end of it. But Victoria wasn't done yet. She stepped a little closer, her eyes taking in mine. "I'm serious. You're hardworking, reliable, not like a lot of men these days." I swallowed hard, suddenly feeling the heat of the sun beat down on me with renewed vigor. "I just try to help where I can," I said, turning my head awkwardly. Victoria smiled, but it wasn't the warm, motherly smile you might expect. It was something else. Something that made my pulse race, which I didn't like at all. "Well, I'd better let you get back to work," she finally said, and turned to walk back into the house. "If you need anything, let me know." I watched her walk away into the house, and my thoughts raced. Something was in the air between us, something unspoken but heavy, like a storm cloud on the horizon. I shook my head, trying to shake the feeling away. Maybe it was nothing. It was just my imagination running wild. By the time I finished fixing the fence, the sun was starting to set. Amanda and Victoria were inside, laughing and chatting like old friends. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat on the porch, trying to relax. But the strange tension from earlier still hung in the air, and there was no way I could shake it off. After a few minutes, Amanda came outside and sat down next to me, resting her head on my shoulder. "Thanks for fixing the fence," she said quietly. "Mom really appreciates it." "No problem," I reply, wrapping my arm around her. But as we sat there watching the sunset, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew that from now on, I would have to be on my guard. There are boundaries that can't be crossed, boundaries that must be respected. And somehow, I had a feeling that those boundaries were about to be tested by my mother-in-law. Her gaze was eating me up. She wanted something. I could guess what it was, but I tried not to think about it. Although as a man, I like her. She is 45 years old, but she looks 30 years old. We'll see what happens next.